What up, Brookago? This is the Spawn on Me podcast, the premier podcast spotlighting people of color in the gaming industry. I'm your host, Kahlief Adams, and I'm super excited to be rocking with all of you here in Brookago this week and every week. Massive amounts of love to you all at home, doing your thing in podcast land, Twitch land, and everywhere else that we reside. Super excited to be chilling here back at home. If you have been paying attention to the work that's been getting done over the past couple of weeks, you know that I was in Vegas last week over at the DICE Summit, getting it done, making things happen, meeting and greeting, rubbing some elbows, kissing some babies, all that good stuff in the space. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to the 2 exclusive interviews that we dropped this week on the feed, you are missing out and you messed up hardcore. We had Stanley Pierre Lewis, who is the head of the ESA. That is AKA the King Grand Poobah of E3. And also we had Nick Allen, who is the SVP of partnerships and esports over at Loaded, the folks who are rocking and making sure that Ninja, Tindertap and Ammunition are getting their checks. So if you have not been paying attention to the stuff that they've been doing, you are messing it all up in your spaces. So again, thank you to everyone who is giving us love for those shows, because we've gotten some amazing feedback about all those, and especially everybody who's rocking with us while we tape this bad boy live tonight on Twitch. We have some things to talk about towards the end of the show about next week on Twitch as well, because we have some big things coming for the end of Black History Month. But this week, I am super excited about the guests that we have coming and rocking with us this week, because if you've been paying attention to any of the stuff that's been going on in Black Twitter about Black History Month, and especially in gaming, in the gaming spaces, you know that this gent has been doing big things and pushing out amazing content, sharing out all the good work that we've been doing. And we get a chance to talk about that here this week. So without further ado, massive love and massive shout outs to our guest tonight, Marvin Bing, who's rocking with us from Hunting Park Studios. Super excited to be rocking with you, fam. I know that it has been a very busy week for you. And I'm excited to have you on with us this week. Thank you so much for coming through, and thank you so much for being a part of the show this week.
Hey, man, I'm super grateful. Kudos to the work you've done. And actually, the reason why I'm even furthering my work in this space is because of people like you. One of the first people I researched and got noticed in this space was the work that you were doing. And I love underdogs. I love hidden heroes. So this is like a match made in heaven.
Thank you, man. I definitely appreciate it. I know that we chatted offline a couple of months ago, actually, trying to figure out good ways to be able to chat and get together and figure out ways that we would be able to have you on the show and have these conversations. Yeah. So I'm hyped just for the fact that, like, one, we get a chance to chop it up in front of our family here in Brookago. And especially being able to showcase the stuff that you're doing and give you another platform with the folks that we have here in our community. I want to first kind of dig into your background, because I think we all come to gaming in different ways. We all kind of reach these spaces and get to them in, various avenues. I know the route that I got into gaming is not the typical one at all. And you, from the research that I've done and information that I found, you have also had a very different avenue to getting towards and talking about gaming. Can you let the folks at home kind of get a gist of some of that background as well?
Sure. How much time we got? It's a little bit of a story.
We got time, fam. We got time.
I think I guess I'll start out, in the context of, growing up, especially in the hood, right? It's like you're either given a basketball, football. They didn't have controllers back then, but I certainly was, taken to my dad's arcade. And I think, the love of gaming began with that, as well as like the handheld video games, you get the little Tiger handhelds. It's like one game you could play all day. So that's where I actually fell in love with gaming since I was a child. But, bouncing parallel to that, I grew up in the foster care system. I can't tell you how many countless foster homes that I was in, group homes. I met my father for the first time in prison. He was in prison when I first met my father. My mother passed away when I was 4 years old. So growing up was a little crazy, here and there. My story is a microcosm of so many stories of young African Americans, Latinos, around the world. But I had a fortunate chance encounter meeting a man by the name of Bill Lynch,
Mm.
who at the time I had no clue who this guy was. My father got out of prison and he started working for the mayor of Philadelphia, and of course every city has different programs you can get involved with. And when I got out of juvie, we can talk about that too later. I did some time in juvie.
Yeah.
He was like, you need to, do something with your life and join this program. So at the time, I only thing political that I knew was what my father was doing as a formerly incarcerated black man coming home trying to fight for the rights to vote for people who were formerly incarcerated. But the program I signed up for was called the Children's Defense Fund, and ran by a woman by the name of Marian Wright Edelman. And what they did, and my first experience in the space, was they gathered a bunch of black college students and they took them to the Alex Haley Farm in Tennessee, and they taught them how to teach underprivileged young people that look like us arithmetic and reading back into our neighborhoods that we come from and we live in. Super inspirational. I mean, outside of growing up in Philadelphia, traveling on the subway, I've never been around that many black people in my life.
No doubt.
And it's just so amazing, seeing different black people from St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit, Oakland, Dallas, Boston, and how different we are, but yet we are sort of share the same intimacy of history.
Yeah.
And love of our people, and us trying to do the right thing and fight for what we believe in as a collective, even though we just met each other. So, on the Alex Haley Farm, I met a guy by the name of Bill Lynch. And again, I had no clue who this man was. I was, amazed at all these cool, cultured fashionistas, and I'm very energetic. So, a couple people took notice of the energy, and Bill was one of those people. When he came up to me and said, "Hey, if you're ever in New York, give me a call. I love your energy." So again, I didn't know who this guy was. I went back to Philadelphia, Dad, it was cool. Program was great. I kept in touch with a couple people that I met. And then one day, I'm sitting in Philadelphia and I'm like, you know what? I'm not satisfied with the life I have at the moment. And I took a chance. A friend of mine that I met on the farm lived in Harlem, and I'm talking to her about everything I want to do, and she said, "Hey, move to New York." I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds cool. Where I'm going to stay?" She's like, "Stay with me." I'm like, "Bet." I packed my stuff and I hit I-95. I'm out. So I finally got a chance to meet with Bill, and come to find out, this is the guy who advised Nelson Mandela when he got released from jail in South Africa on his presidential run.
Wow.
Right? This is the guy who brought Nelson Mandela to Yankee Stadium, right? This is the guy who advised Jesse Jackson when he ran for president in '88. Like, this dude is like the quintessential black political mastermind behind a lot of black power movements that's happened through '80s, '90s, even in the 2000s. And he put me right to work. My first political campaign was in Manhattan for a district attorney's race. The gentleman who is currently the DA wasn't supposed to win at the time, but we kicked ass. Excuse my language.
No, you can totally cuss on the show. You're good.
And he won his race, and people start taking notice. Like, damn, the areas that I was responsible for, Central Harlem, West Harlem, East Harlem, some parts of Washington Heights, he did extremely well, even against not having the political endorsements that other candidates had that assumed that he would win.
Yeah.
So from there, it's like, oh shit, who's this kid, Marvin Bing? And it's like, Bill's like, it's my guy, right? And in that moment, I start calling him my godfather, and he finally returned the love and called me his godson. And from there, it's just been campaign after campaign. Passed away, sadly. I'm still somewhat recovering from that because he played such a larger than life figure in my life. But without him, I wouldn't even be here talking to you today.
It's amazing to hear. Like, one of the things that I hear constantly from folks who are either, games adjacent or not even games adjacent, just like folks who have gone through a lot of stuff in their early life and have, persevered through those hardships and through those things. I also share a similar story in some ways where Both of my parents were drug addicted. I didn't know either one of them until very, very late in my life. And then even then it was still, there was this disconnect between them and myself about, where do you belong in that mix, right? How do you, do I call you a parent? Do I call you all this stuff? It's like all those things where you don't even have those things in that space, but those through stories of perseverance and those people who pluck you out of bad situations, who see you and understand that you have worth and have those conversations with you in a real way and uplift you. It's always so fantastic to see so many people who have those folks in their lives. And I'm sorry, and my condolences, because I know that people like that mean very, very much to the folks who have been influenced by them. When you think about that relationship, when you think about, the places where you started from, and then kind of you're working in these places where you're working on campaigns and you're talking about social justice and the upliftment of, the folks in the Black community, where was the spark for that thing? I feel like it's not a thing that most people just automatically kind of reach for, but it is a thing that once you do find it, it feels like a lot of folks find lots of purpose within those working situations.
No doubt. I mean, I think, I was actually one of the lead organizers. I know, moving around to like the current political landscape, the issue of stop and frisk in New York City. I was actually one of the lead organizers against Mayor Bloomberg at the time.
This is me throwing up my fist for everybody who's listening in audio.
For sure. When we built this broad coalition, on the backs of countless generations of people working hard to end this. I mean, a lot of people like to take credit for things when they're past and not recognizing there's a ton of people who aren't here or who are just tired of talking, who's done a lot of work to pave the way for you to be there. So I want to definitely give acknowledgement to that. But, I think after that campaign, we look in the mirror for different reasons at different moments in our life. And I think after that campaign, when we ultimately ended the practice of stop and frisk, I went home. I was on 122nd Street, and I stopped and reflected for a minute, and I said something to my inner self that broken crayons can still color, right? And I think that was sort of like the epitome of me just coming full circle with my own life, saying, I've been through hell and back, right? Like, you don't understand people, if you're not built a certain kind of way, that could break you mentally, spiritually, and still acknowledging I'm still broken, right? You don't outgrow what you've been through. You just find a polished way to pretend it doesn't exist currently. Yep. But certainly I have my days where it's like I have a bottle in my hand and I'm like, what the fuck, right?
Yeah.
But I realized that broken crayons still do color. And I think that's the sort of spark that it doesn't matter what I do professionally, whether it's political, social justice, government, now gaming, esports, it's that same tenacity that, I'm always going to be counted out. I'm always going to face hardships. There's always going to be mountains in front of me, but I'm going to punch the mountain and split the Red Sea. I'm coming through. And it's not just like I'm coming through for me. My mantra is if I can't come with the gang, I don't want to be there in the first place. And when I say gang, just so people don't misconstrue what I mean, I'm not talking about, some negative people that's looking to do harm. I'm talking about people like you, people like Aaron, and countless other African Americans, Latinos, Asians, Native people, women who are fighting the same fights. And it's like the more and more I could chisel away at the mountain, it's the easier path for you to walk through. And that's just how I operate.
I love hearing that and I'm happy that you touched on the kind of coalition, right? Because the coalition is the thing that gets everything done when it comes to the end of the day. Like I was, I'm happy to also hear you talk about Bloomberg and stop and frisk stuff, because we already had the conversation last night. If you were watching Twitter, if you were paying attention to any of the stuff that happened on social media, and especially the conversation around the debate, I am a product of the stop and frisk movement in New York when it was all happening. There are so many countless people whose lives were forever changed by the policing structures within New York City and across the nation and across the world. The thing that I want to dig into a little bit is when you talk about those coalitions, and this will bridge directly into some of the conversations around the gaming parts of it, but the thing I love about, I'm going to say our people, I'm going to say, this is, they're talking about the coalition, right? Is we are always trying to figure out good ways that we can break down systems, try to uplift our folks, and try to figure out good ways to push forward as a collective. The one thing that is the blessing and the curse of, I will say, the progressive / liberal side of the fence is that sometimes we're all trying to get through this one door to make sure that progress is happening, but on the same end, we wind up shooting ourselves in the backs with arrows, right?
No doubt.
Because we all are coming to it with the want to make sure that the larger group is always put in a good space. But we also have our micro groups where we're all looking for things that are the most close to us. When you think about the coalition building that you were working on with the folks in the political realm, what were some of the hardest things to kind of figure out ways to get folks to coalesce around a topic or coalesce around an issue that were the binding parts of it? Because I feel like there's a huge amount of conversation now within the Black gaming community about how do we figure out good ways to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table. And even when we don't have a seat at the table, the folks who do are doing the work that hopefully will benefit everybody else.
That's a good question.
That was a long ass question. My fault.
No doubt. But some people aren't going to like the answer because it's probably true for them, right? In any coalition, it's never easy building a coalition. Let me start there. No matter what the issue is, no matter what the project or campaign is. And I think that the hardest part in building a coalition is to get everyone to focus on the goal, and then understand that, it's just like a basketball or football team. Everybody can't be the quarterback. Right. Everybody can't be the running back. Right. Somebody got to block for the running back. Right. Somebody got to catch the ball. Right. Somebody got to play tight end. Somebody got to be on the O-line and make sure the quarterback can actually get the ball to the receiver so they can get the points and get the touchdown. Right. And, some people, when they join coalitions, it may sound good, it may feel good, but their ultimate goal isn't really to help the coalition progress to the goal. It's to try to figure out how to leverage themselves in that coalition so they can come out on top and be the star, right? Yeah. And sometimes that's fine. If everybody in the coalition agrees that your mission is in parallel to the goal of the coalition and that you're trying to ascend to whatever place you're trying to ascend, fine. But oftentimes you get individuals, right, who, wolf in sheep's clothing, right? Like, oh, we're gonna fight this fight. We're gonna storm the castle. We're gonna storm the castle. And as soon as we get through the castle door, they slam the door and lock it, and they're just happy with them being at the table. No, that's not it, right? That's not it, because any system that's been built, and this is political, gaming, the marijuana industry that's now profitable when millions of lives have been destroyed and people are still sitting in prison for selling a nickel bag, and other folks are getting rich off selling nickel bags, just because they're legally passed, right? So it's the same thing with gaming, right? And again, I haven't been in the space that long to critique anyone that is in this space. Sure. But certainly coming from political world and social justice world, it becomes celebritized, right? The work becomes celebritized, and it's no longer about the work. It's about, well, this person tweeted that, and that person should walk during Fashion Week. Well, what about the innocent young man who just was killed by the police? Or, what about this, young lady who was, domestically assaulted? It doesn't become about the actual issue that we came to the coalition to fight for in the first place. It becomes more about how cool, famous this one person is, and that person now trying to figure out how to leverage a brand instead of trying to figure out how to elevate a community, right? And again, it's tough, right? Because we're all put in positions, and if we're successful enough, we're always going to be put in a position where we're going to have to make that decision at some point in all of our careers, because there's people who always trying to separate the head from the body, right?
Oh man,
and that's a real thing, right? And it's not,
it's so
you know,
real.
ain't nobody gonna sit here and be like, hey, they gave me an offer and told me you couldn't come,
Right.
right? Because they trying to figure out, to get themselves in the door.
Yeah.
I will say this, however, if you have a plan and in the coalition, in the goal, like let's say we want to elevate you, and we're going to make you the senior vice president at Riot Games. And I mean, this is not a real thing. This is just purely hypothetical.
Sure.
I've only mentioned Riot Games because I've just been paying attention to a lot of League of Legends stuff today. So,
yeah.
If you listen, once I get in, of course, now as senior vice president, you have access to all the career opportunities, all the internship opportunities, all the different experiential activations and programs that they're going to be doing, all the brand activations. You could bring different people along in different spaces, but if you go into that space and then you act like that coalition isn't the reason why you got there, or you pull a Tiger Woods and say you're not black, you're Blasian, right? Like, I'm not black. What do you mean? Me black? Like, then we've all lost, including you, because you may enjoy your moment in the sun, but a famous poet named is Jay-Z once said, the same sword they knight you with, they going to good night you with. And it's just half if they like you. That's just true. And it's always been true, and it always will be true.
I could probably just stop the show right there and that'd be it. Like bars and then just dip
out. You said real talk. We doing this.
I need an emote that just was like bars. But the thing, and you're absolutely right? It's like, and we've seen it across every movement that has ever been a movement, right? Where
no doubt
folks who are not in the door are looking at the folks who got in the door, mad that they got in the door, and then trying to figure out like, yo, I've been doing the work and no one is looking at the stuff that I've been doing. I feel like there's there's an interesting spot in there too, right? Where it's like,
no doubt.
With anything, like with fame, it's luck, it's networking, it's right place, right time, plus skills, plus all the other things that go along with it. I know for damn sure, and I'll toot my own horn here, is like, I know that there are no other shows doing the work that we do in the way that we do with the quality that we have. And we are forever left off mad lists when it comes to like top black podcast or top gaming, blah, blah, blah. Like, we get left off the stuff all the time. Do I get salty? Fuck yeah, I get salty. I get salty about that stuff all the time because I know how much work goes into making a show dope and building it and doing all the stuff. But it never stops me from keeping that door open and taking people with me.
True story.
And I think that that's the part of the conversation that I think a lot of people get it twisted is, even if you don't get in, don't poop on the people who got in, because you can use those people as the leverage, as the levers that kind of get things pushed, right?
Right, absolutely.
You know what it's like to do that work when you're when you're dealing with a political campaign, when you're dealing with raising funds for a project, when you're doing that thing, when you're trying to figure out good ways to balance the political with the need of the industry, with the need of the outfit that you run, with the need for the outfit that the people that are aligned with that thing. Right. We all wear masks. We all have to play the role at some point and try to figure out good ways that we can get in where we fit in.
And I even add, I mean, not to cut you off, I even add to that, right? And I'm gonna give you a personal, I hate hypotheticals as much as I can avoid them. Yeah. So thank God I have a personal story to add to the conversation right now. Yeah. I was the creative director at Amnesty International, the largest human rights organization in the world. First African American in that space. Worked for the first Black executive director of the U.S. section of Amnesty International, which is the largest section outside of the UK section of the Amnesty universe. And I've never been a creative director. I mean, I've been creative, but we give a bunch of different cool titles to different things that we've always done these days, right? Yes. So it's like, I'm the creative director at Amnesty. Cool. And that's opened up plenty of doors. One thing I do, or that I want to do, sort of use visual art to tell stories around human rights and social justice issues. And I'm not saying I'm the first person to do it, let alone first African American to do it, but I was the first person at in the space I was in at Amnesty that had an idea to do it in a way that it hadn't been done at Amnesty in a very long time. We was in Ferguson. I'll never forget. We were in Ferguson when the fight for Mike Brown was happening. I'm not talking about after the verdict when everybody came to take selfies and it was just cool to be in Ferguson.
Yeah.
I'm talking about when the stepfather was on CNN holding the sign. We were on the plane the next day to Ferguson, right? When it was like dogs getting sicked on you, shotguns out, like it was real. And I made a call to a gentleman. I won't put his name out there, because I've let bygones be bygones. I'd say, hey, brother, we should do this project called Manifest Justice. And we should talk about, get all these artists together to amplify everything that we're dealing with: police brutality, racial injustice, education, the fact that more kids are going to prisons are being built in schools, everything. And he's like, yo, this is dope, right?
Yep. And
this is where I've learned my first hard lesson into like what we're talking about. Sometimes the door can be kicked open, but sometimes we ain't ready to walk through it because of lack of knowledge, right? Lack of education, lack of confidence, right? Or you just you lazy and you just ain't ready for that space. Yeah. In my case, I didn't understand at the time, when you have a creative idea that you know is probably going to strike gold, trademark it. One. Two, make sure some attorneys are more than just you and the person talking know that you're transferring this information to this individual, because people monetize ideas. A friend told me 2 years ago, stop going to lunch and having conversations about projects. People should sign an NDA before you go to lunch, because that lunch meeting you're having, you're exchanging $1 million ideas, and there's no guarantee that person's going to cut you in on when they go get the $1 million, right? So I learned a crazy hard lesson. We have the event. We put in resources from Amnesty. That person raised some money from external places and people. Next thing I know, he's on the news. This person is the leader of Manifest Justice. I'm sitting there like,
oh man,
like what? Like, it's cool, right? But it doesn't help that I'm rough around the edges. But I'm always going to remain the same way. I don't care. I don't wear suits. I don't do none of that. Accept me as I am, or you just, we're not at the same table. And, again, moving forward in that same conversation, I did a big art show for Usher. He released a song called Chains with Nas around, criminal justice reform and gun violence. And I brought a bunch of people to the table. I know what I know. I know what I don't know. And again, this particular individual created a whole company based off of the stuff I introduced him to. But again, for years I was bitter, angry. But then about a year ago, I said I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to manifest myself into the very thing that I created myself. So I can't be upset that someone saw the value in it and manifested for themselves. And I forgave that person. We talked, but to your point, like there's so many different, we see people go through these doors that we feel like we should be also in, but sometimes we ain't ready. But sometimes it's some shady shit that's happened. The reason why you ain't in that door. But to your point, you can't get upset and give up on yourself, because, if it's one person that believes in what you're doing, it's worth continuing, right? And I'm sure that happens each and every day, especially in the budding esports and gaming space.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. You have hit the nail on the head with that for sure. And I've been dropping gems ever since you picked up the microphone on this episode. We're going to take a quick break because we passed the 30-minute mark. When we come back from the break, we're going to dig into all the esports stuff. We're going to talk about Black Gamer Month and a whole bunch of other stuff that you've been working on.
No doubt.
Everybody at home here on Twitch Land, Podcast Land, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Brookago, if you are not paying attention to the first half of the show that we are recording right now, you are out of your mind. Marvin is dropping massive gems on all y'all's heads, and you're not catching it because you missed the first half of the show. Go back, listen to the first half, catch up, get on the second half, get on your job, and make it happen. Again, Marvin, one of the things that I'm really interested in, and I feel like you have a very specific expertise towards talking about this, is one of the themes of this year for us at Spawn on Me is Black empowerment, right?
Okay.
It's a thing that I've been thinking about a lot. One of the things I kind of brought up when I was at DICE this year, they had these roundtable sessions, and people kind of come to those, and you have a hypothesis or a question or a theme, and you talk about that thing with the folks in the gaming industry, and you build that up. One of the conversations I had was around the brown dollar in gaming, right? And the hypothesis was, if you took all the brown folks, all the marginalized folks, all the POC folks, and you snatched up all their dough, you took it out of the gaming ecosystem for a year, how would that impact gaming, right? I have some tertiary numbers that are not full because no one has done the work to do that.
Right.
But the reason I bring that up is because I know that you've worked in multiple spaces where the conversation around Black money and Black worth are always connected, right?
Absolutely.
We've seen the conversations. We've seen, the quote unquote, everybody uses it, the Black Panther effect of what it means for hip hop culture, for Black culture, which is, again, I say this every week, which is the dominant, predominant culture that moves everything else.
Right.
How do we figure out good ways to showcase that stuff in the work that we're doing? I'm curious to hear your thoughts about how the work that you've done in previous spaces has kind of enlightened you about the power of that brown dollar in real ways.
Absolutely. So, and many times I was trying to find political solutions to some of the injustice that we've seen or faced. We always, as part of the solution roundtable, we always end up back at the same place: the power of the Black dollar, the power of the Black consumer. If we're upset about housing discrimination, and we're upset about gentrification, and we're upset about police misconduct, and we're upset about failing schools, the conditions of the schools, the resources being taken out of the public schools. Like, what can you do to shine a light? There's the op-ed game where everyone just writes op-eds and think pieces. There's a piece where you march and protest, and all those things sort of add to the solution roundtable. A friend of mine, Tamika Mallory, more like a sister, much more than a friend, a sister. She always brings it back to the power of the Black dollar. And if African Americans and Latino, any ethnic group withholds their dollar from these major corporations, you certainly will see any change that you want to see. It hasn't been done in recent memory.
No.
To the effect that we make that kind of impact. It's been tried. There's been small dents. Of course, I'm never going to take any credit away from those who have tried it. But if as a collective, we have not been successfully able to do that. And even how you think about jumping over to the gaming space, one thing I've noticed, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a neighborhood in 2K and thousands of gamers are in the store spending VC money, whether it be earned or they're using their own money or mom and dad's money or grandma and grandpa's money or cousin, brother, sister, uncle, homie money to buy VC, to buy the latest skins, sneakers, shirt, not from Fortnite to you name the game. Urban gamers, Black gamers, Latino gamers, Asian, native gamers are always spending that coin to look the freshest character. Every week in Destiny, I'm spending money buying whatever's in the damn store, Eververse, right? I'm
right.
buying. It doesn't matter if I'm gonna use the emote or not. I'm just buying it, right?
Yep.
And it's just, again, it goes to show you that without us, pretty much anything consumer based is never going to be successful. Yeah. And that's what it leads into, the whole point of even why I jumped into space, the way I'm jumping into the space is, that has to end. Right. And, a friend of mine, Joe Freshgoods, big fashion designer out of Chicago, he came out with a shirt around last year around the whole debacle with Gucci. And he did a knockoff Gucci shirt and he put, add diversity and inclusion, and everybody forgets over top of the Gucci later, right? And it's like, that happens a lot, right? It's like you add the word diversity and inclusion, and it's like that's the mushroom that grows Mario, and that's not always the case because, and I tried to jump into it in Cheddar. I just didn't have enough time, but, we got to move beyond this idea of we just want to sit at the table. No, we want equity and ownership, right? Of course, diversity and inclusion is important, but that's step one. Right. That's not the final step, right? And until we sort of understand, like, any esports league, any gaming company should be required. Like, think about NFL and the Rooney Rule, which is not perfect and needs so much more added to it. But, like, why couldn't there be some sort of rule with esports league? If you don't have a minority as a part owner or a minority that has equity in your business, you can't even get a team. You can't join this league. Like, how I'm tired of looking at these esports teams as it's just all one race. I'm sick to my stomach, right? Yep. And it's like, I don't want to see black people just as fans. I don't want to see black people just holding a camera, right? We're so much more. We do so many more things. Listen, I may get in trouble for this, but you know what? Hey, I will take a bunch of urban gamers with the craziest gamer tags that you probably can't pronounce and probably got some crazy stuff in it versus any of these mainstream. I'm telling you, like, these kids in our communities are like wizards. Like, these are kids who are figuring this stuff out at 5 and 6. My little brother be beating my ass in games. I'd be like, how is this possible? Like, I've been to every college you can name. I've been around all these important people having all these deep ass conversations about all this social political shit happening around the world. And you just wiped the floor with me in this game. Yeah. So again, it's like, until we start having a different kind of conversation around diversity and inclusion, I think we're just going to be spinning the wheels.
I need another emote. I need a preach emote now. After the bars emote, because it frustrates me to no end, right? Where it's like, I know and I see it every time, and I'm sure you do this too at this point, right? Like, no matter what new thing starts, no matter what new opportunity pops itself up, because we always see these inflection points where you'll have, no one in the space for a while, then the space starts to get a little hot, and then the space gets a little bit hotter. And then you see various things that kind of pop themselves into those spaces to let you know that something is about to turn a corner, right? You remember in the early 90s and early, late 80s, the conversation around professional athletes and ownership, because everyone was going broke. Everyone was like, yo, you need to go franchise and get a franchise business.
That's right.
Go get a restaurant, go get a car wash, go get a thing. That's right. Then that moved in the past 5 to 7 years. Now the new hotness is esports teams, and we see celebrities jumping into that space. We see Drake doing that thing. I'm mad at you, Drake, because you caused the ninja thing to happen. Anyway,
I'm mad at him for 2 reasons. That, and instead of investing all your money into the esports team that you did, there's no reason you couldn't find a bunch of people who look like you from Canada and help them build their own brand and own esports team. But we'll get into that later.
I just hit the clip button again. but yes, and I totally agree with that. That's another part of the conversation, right? Where it feels like you have so many folks with capital who are not looking inward into the community for folks who know, and are interestingly enough, going with the brand that they just see and saying, oh, we know these cats are doing stuff and we know that they hot. Other people are paying attention. They got a whole bunch of YouTube views or they got a whole bunch of IG views. Yeah. So let's let my manager go be the person who does the research to do that thing. And then we put some money into it.
Yep.
I'm always frustrated. And I always go through the process of being like, let me look down the roster. I remember looking at the Call of Duty rosters for Call of Duty's league this year. Very few brown people. And it's interesting enough where it's like the ambiguity between, like, you can look at a last name and hope, or you can look at it, you can look at a face and see, right?
No doubt.
And I'm like, oh, well, you have a name that sounds like it may be Latino or have a Latin base or something like that, but I don't know, and nobody promotes it, right?
Nobody promotes it, right?
So what's the in the esports space, we see the outliers, right? We see where, and you're doing great work with spotlighting these folks. We're going to talk about it in a second when it comes to Black Gamer Month, where you have folks like Quita, who is the first woman in the 2K League. You have folks like Erin, who's working over at Cheddar and doing great things in that space.
Right.
And you have all these other folks who you showcased and things. When you're having these initial conversations with folks directly in the esports space about seeing more of us in those rooms, what are some of the conversations that you're having, and what are some of the things that you're hearing?
I mean, it's not an easy conversation. It's not comfortable because folks feel like, even when you look at and again, this is no knock to any, I respect the grind of every esports organization that's out here grinding, understanding the future and seizing the moment. But I think it says something like, if you go to 100 Thieves stream, right, they're playing rap music.
Yep.
They're wearing urban gear.
Yep.
Right. They're using urban slang. Right. And it's like, all you see is Avalanche. And like, and that's cool. I rock with Avalanche, support him 100%. We featured him, right? Yep. But like, when you talk about the business around it, you don't see us at all.
Right.
Yeah, you may have Michael B. Jordan, who invested in the Ambox, to the person who co-owns the Mets. That was supposed to be sarcastic, right?
Uh-huh.
But outside of that, it's like, some folks are scared because, like, well, if we speak out and if we raise our voices, they're gonna box us out. They're gonna block us out. Then you have the people that are at the table. Back to our earlier conversation about people who get to the table, and they are scared to speak out because they don't want to get removed from the table that they fought so hard to be at in the first place.
Right.
That's the whole scheme of separate the head from the body, right? And it's like, until we all, again, back to the coalition conversation, back to any social justice movement, like, until we draw the line in the sand and say, and shout out to the sister who is actually the commissioner for the Call of Duty League.
Yes.
Much respect and praise to her.
Yep.
But until we draw a line in the sand and say, unless there's a real inclusivity, shouldn't just be a term on a piece of paper that gets emailed around and sent through departments and general counsel's offices as a checkbox, and it's just one. No, inclusive is everything. On screen, behind the screen, content creation, social media, ownership, right? Marketing, right? Even how the stories that you put around your players, right? Where's our stories? Because I'm pretty sure all those gamers, I mean, again, I could be so wrong, and I welcome the critique if I am. Like, if you take some of them teams players who all look the same, I'm pretty sure their stories aren't that very, very, very different.
Right.
But if you put a mosaic around your brand and your program and your team, the beauty of those stories, like, will do wonders for even a brand perspective, right? Equity and equality sells now. Right? Talk to Disney.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Holla Disney. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's cool. It's financial rewarding to tell Black stories.
Yes.
Like, I don't understand why esports didn't get that memo. Like, shout out to Black Panther. I'm just saying, it's like, but beyond the dollar that you can get from telling Black stories, it's just the right thing to do. And again, shout out to Ninja. But if it wasn't for Travis Scott, Drake, and other people, Ninja may not be where he is today. Like, I'm just keeping it 1,000, right?
Yeah.
Like celebrity culture, which is hip hop culture.
Yep.
Without that influence on gaming, a lot of people we see as celebrity gamers wouldn't be there, right? And I'm saying, pay respects to that, right? And open up the door deeper than that, because there are Black gamers that even come behind that are probably just as good if they got a chance.
Well, I mean, think about this. The conversation around Ninja, because there's a story that goes along that where, some mutual friends, I was in a room when that whole thing went down. So I remember the day that it happened. But the conversation I remember, and it's very specific, was one in which there were two folks in the top of the Fortnite community at one point. It was Ninja, and Ninja was kind of the first person to kind of like really put Fortnite in a space where people were paying attention to it in a real way. But his skills were diminishing because he's a little bit older in the space in comparison to most of the folks who were playing. And I remember specifically Shout out to my fam, to the cat out there, TSM Myth. Shout out to Myth, who at the time was better than Ninja and changed the way people played the game. Literally changed the way people played Fortnite. And he is not caking the same way that Ninja is caking at all. He should be, but he's not. Sure, he got picked up by TSM. Sure, he got picked up by a whole, but he's doing stuff with Twitch and got banners and stuff all there. And it was one of those things that I think about all the time, where I'm like, I'm not going to specifically say that it was just about race, but it is very specifically interesting because he is better than that cat who was playing, who had a better marketing team than he did. He had a better squad behind him in that respect, because his wife is kicking ass in terms of doing and building him up into a brand. But if we want to talk about the like effort to fame ratio, he was and probably still is better than Ninja in terms of playing that game. That's a part of the conversation that's alongside all those things as well.
I mean, listen, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's in relation to gaming and politics. I mean, you know, when there's an open seat, whether city council, assembly, state rep, there's always a conversation of like, who should we pick to fill that seat? Right. Who can we get behind? Right. And it's like, it's not the person who's done the most work, who's the most actually talented, who actually wants to do the most work for the community, who looks good in the suit, who speaks well on TV, who, you know, whose record isn't as checkered as the next person, like, who's clean, right? That's who we got to get behind, because that person in the long run is more, and we have a greater return, right? And some parts of me, I understand that. Sure. Some parts of me, I'm disgusted by it, because again, like broken crayons still color, right? And we forget that, you know, I'm pretty sure Ninja had worked hard, right? Grinded. And I know his wife has done the debt. Without his wife, you know, like, we don't know Ninja, right?
She is the brains of that outfit, for sure.
The brains of the whole outfit, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, even when she goes to like a brand, and a brand is like, okay, we're going to take Ninja in and we're going to like build all these products and messages around him as a brand that's helping our brand sell a product, right? Because that's what it always is about. And that's cool. I support that. Yep. Where's the person on the brand side? Where's the person on the marketing side that's saying, hey, why don't Ninja do a stream with the person who you just mentioned? Because again, you can lift two boats and it won't sink your tide. Right. And I don't understand the mythology that it has to be one, or it can't be more than one, right? And that's the mentality of a lot of people across genres, across social career. I mean, everyone thinks that same way, right? Yep. We can only take one of you, right? And it's like there's no diversity even in the thought of like more than one. Especially, you know, if I'm Adidas, and it's, you know, no knock to Adidas. I'm a Nike Jordan dude. No knock to Adidas. I love Nike. I wear Yeezys. Sure. Facts. But it's like I want to build a story around not just Ninja at this point. Like, I understand you have to get Ninja to a point where he's good for the brand, but we're past that point. Where's the deeper dive into like, okay, Ninja, who do you want to elevate? Who do you want to bring into the space? Right. And Ninja's sitting there like, yo, I want to do this ad campaign with the person you mentioned. I want to do this ad campaign with the top Latino Fortniter, right? I want to do this campaign with the top native Fortnite player. Yeah. Or it doesn't even have to be a Fortnite player. It could just be anybody in the space. But and that's what leadership is, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like, they don't want that. You don't want that.
Of course they don't want that. Well, I mean, again, maybe they do, but we take these people, we take these moments, and we forget to add leadership development into the equation of all this marketing talk, right? And their leadership development is, you know, say this on camera, don't do that, don't get seen with that person, show up here on time, right? That's leadership development, but that's all wrong, right? It's Ninja. Who do you want to bring into the space? Who do you want to elevate? Who do you want to, even if you create, and I'm seeing it a lot with esports companies to develop in these academies, which I'm still super critical of because I still don't see a lot of us in those academies as the next gen pool of players that can have the potential to make the esports competitive team. But like, where's that at, right? Where's these pipelines? And like, even with the thing I found, the access to information, right? Like, you assume that people on social media, you know that there's a 2K tournament. People assume that you know that Apex Legends is hosting regional, and you can get in there and win $500 chance to and do more good work in your craft, right? So it goes hand in hand, like access to information and just being the leaders and saying that, you know, we need to diversify this effort that we're a part of.
Yeah, I mean, we have that conversation here on the show and in our Black gaming spaces about the idea around the Negro Highlander, and how that can be, how that's like always in that space and it's always there. But it is really interesting. I'm happy you brought up that point about the ability for folks who have gotten to that particular part. They're at the pinnacle of the game right now, and we see it. And we see, and there's another conversation that we can have at some point down the line about, I'm not even going to call it cliques, right? Because cliques are part of the conversation in any form of social setting, right? But it's this idea around that being brand safe, right?
Right.
And that part being brand safe is where we see, you know, folks like Dr. Lupo and Tim the Tatman and all these other folks. They only really play with each other, which is a whole other conversation. It's like, I remember this fantastic article that Patrick Klepek wrote back in the day. He's working for Waypoint now, and he had that self-realization. It was like, yo, when it comes to E3 and Giant Bomb bringing in people to sit on their couch and have those conversations and be like, here are people in the industry you should know. He remembered looking through his own phone book and being like, I don't have brown people in here, so I can't advocate for brown people to be in these spaces when they should. He did that self-thought. He did that self-analysis and did that conversation. I know that's not happening in streaming spaces because, one, management is like, nah, don't do it. Two, the brand is like, nah, don't do it.
Right.
And you just know that those parts are in that conversation. So I feel like, you know, you've seen great outfits in the court, and they've been doing this work even more so during Black History Month this year.
Yeah.
Massive shout out to the folks over the Cookout who have been doing such good work, spotlighting and making sure that they're putting people out front. But it is one of those things where I'm sure that there are people who are in their ear saying, you can't do that because there's you can't make that move.
But it's that's been happening for longer than we've been alive, right?
Yeah.
I start a company. I'm going to sell my company. I'm going to keep some shares, but I'm going to sell it to my friend. And we're just going to keep building and building until, we have the super team model, the Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, right? And that's the model that's being repeated even in the gaming space, right? Like Ninja, Glad, Dr. Lupo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
But it's like, why, right? It doesn't, if you're friends, cool, right? And, matter of fact, that may be a bad analogy. I'll give you one like this. I'm a big Destiny person. I'm on Destiny nonstop.
Yeah.
It's a major part of my life. Sometimes people in my clan don't want to play. They don't want to raid. They don't want to do Crucible. They don't want to do, Gambit, right? So, you LFG it. You just throw yourself out there. You join a fire team. You may get on there with a bunch of whack jobs. You may get on there with a bunch of cool cats, right? But even joining that fire team, more so than less, you do people that's willing to teach people,
right.
And will give you props and credit. Oh, yo, wow, you actually a good gamer. Join our clan, right? We'll play with you. You can help Sherpa some stuff with us. Like, and those stories do exist and those people are out there, right? But the people that, to your point, these brand managers, like, they're like, you can't go play with them. You can't be seen with them. You have to be this way. And I'm not even mad. I'm not even going to fault the players at this point because I'm pretty sure they have some probably don't, they do have a diverse cast of people that they play with, they play against, that are better than them, that they will advocate for and amplify and give credit to, especially when the credit is actually due. But they're being told not to. And because it's such a business now, it has to look this way, it has to sound this way, because we got to get that investor money, we got to get that brand money, and that brand. I mean, you can't, But it brings me back to, like, you name the sport, we dominate. You name the you name the genre of, like, right? Who made streetwear what it is? Us, right? The counterculture community, right? The subculture. I mean, it's us. We always make everything cool, but at the pinnacle of it, the people that get the awards, the people that get the spotlight, the deals, it's never us.
Yeah, we're not in those positions.
Maybe one of us, but once you get there, they tell you, "Hey, you're here. You can't talk about them no more."
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
you with us now, right?
Yeah.
Some people fall for it, others don't, but some people do.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. Like the cool part about what I'm seeing in the esports space has been, you have the first person shooter space, you have the kind of like Overwatch. I kind of put it in its own kind of category, even though it is in that same space. The one place I see that has been continuously and constantly doing the work, but also makes the least amount of money, is the fighting game community. The fighting game community is one of the most diverse communities on the planet. I would even say that if you were thinking about, that Time magazine piece that had Ninja as the gamer of the year, person of the year, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That also should have gone to another person. That should have gone to Sonic Fox. Sonic Fox is a gay black furry who will bust your ass in every fighting game that's on the planet. Multidisciplinary kinds of work that you have to learn to be able to play each one of these fighting games in a different game. And is doing it for years on end. He's still competing. He's young and he's still competing, and he still has headroom to continue to grow.
That's right.
The conversation around the fighting game community has always been one in terms of they're not mature enough yet. They don't have enough like on camera personality stuff to do it, and they also don't have enough actual funds to go into and resources to make that thing grow in the way that it should. It's older than all these other games. It's been around longer, has a longer reach and a longer grasp, but we're not seeing anything in that space.
Well, that's actually, I mean, that's a great point. And I think that's like segue into like the work that I sort of saw I could do in the space. So I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that we want to do is create a Black Gaming Fund where we get a collective of African American interests, so we can start funding our own people and their operations and their dreams. So I mean, think about think about a Silicon Valley for Black gamers, right? And how do we create our own ecosystem where, if you or Sonic or Aaron or anyone in the space that's like, yo, Marv, I got this crazy idea. It's going to impact our community. It's going to help our community. Like, I need X amount of dollars. So we have a collective of people from, brand strategists, influencers, artists, behind the scenes, whether it's sports, movies, television, music, that's like putting money into this fund that we can like allocate to you and your gaming endeavor as long as it impacts our community. So that's one of the things that like I'm developing, how to do that, who to do it with, who to partner with. But I think that's going to be one thing that come out over the next year from Hunting Park Studios. As well as we talked offline about it earlier, I'm definitely developing some kind of short film animation of a Black and Latino teenagers trying to make a majority white esports competitive team. And we're going to tell that story through animation. It's in development. I'm working with some writers, some animators right now, but that's going to be super amazing. And I think, Black History Month sort of jumped out at us, and one thing about me is how do I enter this space creatively?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a welcoming pot in terms of our community, but I know there's still folks in our community that's like side eye, right? And anybody coming to the space,
Who
it's
is you,
like,
boo boo? Yeah,
who
that
is
kind of
you?
thing. Yeah.
What you doing here?
Uh huh.
Why are you here? And it's
Uh
like, whoa, I'm the idea guy, right? You know, no, I won't put this person out there, but I sent the email to a person. You actually know the person. I won't mention the name.
huh.
And it was about a past thing that person was doing. And it was so dope to me because, like, as someone that grew up in the hood and how we use slang terminology, when I found a specific term in my research to what I was going to call and our street brand that we're developing to come out with around what we're doing. I'm like, wow, are you still using moniker? I mean, can I help you start it back up?
Mm.
Can I buy it from you?
Mm-hmm.
And the response was like, you're not a top tier content creator, so no. And I'm like, okay, cool, but here's my resume. This is
Right.
who I am, right?
Right.
But cool, to each his own. And one of the things I want to do was, again, try to come in creatively. So I called my boy Van Monroe, super dope artist, good brother, good heart, down for his people. Always trying to tell stories, reimagining, but being very specific around our culture, our people. And he said, Marv, I've always wanted to be a video game animator. I've never gotten the opportunity. I've never gotten the invitation. I don't even know where to look to even apply my talents if I did want to design a character for a video game. I don't even know where to go. So once I sort of sent him the list of like, well, here's some of the people that I've found that I think we should elevate and amplify through your creative craft. He was like, man, I've been wanting to do this all my life. So it was one of them divine moments, his passion and his heart and soul was leading in the same direction that my work was going in, and we just met at the same place. And we still have 2 more weeks of highlighting folks. But again, like I've always been saying, Black Gamer Month was designed to live within Black History Month, but certainly Black history is being made every day. And we're certainly going to amplify our community, Black futures every day beyond Black History Month. So, yeah.
No, I rock with that. I'm gonna see if I can change scenes while we do this and actually show it. Because the stuff that you've been doing has been pretty fantastic. There's a picture that I just threw up that shows Chiquita, Delane Parnell, who runs Play Versus, Aaron Ashley Simon, I'm sorry, who's over at Cheddar, and then our fam Lual Mayan, who is over there doing all this amazing stuff with Salam. This is the work that Van has been doing, and it's just beautiful. It's like you transpose these amazing Black folks and put them in kind of their space, their kind of like best gamer moments and spaces and stuff, and it's super dope. Like, I love the fact that it is something that we're gonna continue to see for the next couple of weeks to kind of end out Black History Month, but it is also one of those things where it again just showcases just how awesome, paying attention to some of that stuff directly is.
Indeed.
What's been the kind of feedback from starting Black Gamer Month and showcasing that conversation in that way?
I mean, it's been positive. I mean, for the people who haven't paid attention, who aren't looking with the side eye, they've been certainly supportive. It's something different, refreshing. Nobody really saw it coming. And that's sort of how I like to do my work. I don't want you to anticipate what I'm about to do. I want you to just be like, oh, damn, and digest it. But again, I mean, I'm so thankful to Van adding his talent to my idea and vision. Without it, it wouldn't even be. But, this project has opened up so many doors. The conversations I'm having with Black gamers, Black game professionals in the gaming esports space, even opportunities that's not, directly related to the company that I've started or the work that I'm doing. It's like, hey, could you come in and help us do this at XY college? And, it's been so amazing. Me and Van are actually talking about creating an actual coffee book with more
Ooh.
stories, deeper animation, deeper stories to go with the animation that we'll put out over the holidays. And again, that particular coffee book will be for sale, but that would be the first fundraising project for the Black Gamer Fund that we're trying to create that will go back into the hands of Black gaming professionals and Black gamers for their projects.
Oh, that just made my heart sing, because that's the stuff
Yep.
again. It's like the conversations that we're constantly having about, where we need to be.
Hmm.
We wind up doing this thing. We wind up doing this interesting song and dance where folks are worried about just the ability to see ourselves in the space, right? But we're not
Right.
owning those spaces. We're not
Right.
controlling those spaces so that we can
Right.
continue to have that money circulate back into, the communities that we want to continue to build.
Indeed.
Um, I'm really excited for everything that you have coming down the line. I'm very, very excited about all the projects that you have coming into, and we have to do some brainstorming too, because I have stuff that you might be able to absolutely help me get off the ground in that way.
Listen, that's my listen. My, you know, at some point in all our lives, we accept our calling, and I'm the person that sits up all day and all night and just thinks about creative ways to help. And I can tell you right now, there's been moments I've been flat broke and I've still helped, right? And that's just who I am, right? And it doesn't matter anyone on social media. Like I'm not the famous dude who's not going to respond. If you have a legitimate idea and you're not wasting your own time, I will give you what I think can help. And some of it may work, some of it may not. But I'm always going to be the person. It doesn't matter blue check, no blue check. It doesn't matter how many followers I have on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It don't matter how many times my name appears in an article. None of that shit matters, right? I care about my 3 babies. I have an 18-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 5-year-old, and I care about my community. And again, I want my children to be able to look and see people who look like them, successful at the things they're successful at, and not feel like they have to be something different to fit in with a different crowd. So that's my journey in life, and it's like, I'm all about it. So whatever idea you have, I'm known as a dot connector. So if there's somebody you want to get to, if you need someone on the show, like I know a few people, and I'm always down to help. It don't cost nothing to help somebody, and that whole idea that it does is just a piece of shit. And I wish that it was never sort of brought into the social ecosystem, which is dumb.
I can't front. That is probably the best place to leave it for this episode, because I feel like that definitely leaves everyone with an understanding of not only your dopeness, but the ability to understand again that, like, and I love what you shared. You were like, I may not have much at some points in my life, but I'm still willing to give people help and still willing to help. And I feel like that is the
Absolutely.
ethos of, how we all get into bigger and better places, and really grow this thing in a real way. And fam, thank you so much for rocking with us tonight, man.
Hey,
I
thanks.
feel
Hey, I told I think I tweeted it before. Like, you were one of the first people to open my ideas with open arms, and it wasn't hostile. It wasn't a side eye. It was like, hey, brother, like however I can support, let's jump in the sandbox and let's build. And I would never in my entire life ever forget it like that. And I intend to carry that same sort of openness to the people that come behind me into the space. I'm never too big to you're my brother, you're not heavy.
yeah. I'm absolutely, and that's what I love about the space right now. Is like, I remember everyone who held my hand and walked me through a door. You know what I mean? And it's been
Right.
like that, it's God knows the 6 years specifically with the show, and then even prior to that, so many wonderful, benevolent people who took my ass and was like, "Yo, you may not know what the hell's going on, but I'm gonna help you anyway." Um,
Right.
so give the folks at home. I know it's on the screen, but let the folks at home know, who aren't watching tonight, where they can find more information about all the stuff that you're working on, where they can get up with you and hopefully help you build out everything that you're trying to work on.
So right now, Hunt Park Studios on Twitter, Hunting Park Studios on Instagram. A small story before. Um, you heard some of my upbringing. So actually, a few weeks ago, I found out the place I was actually born. I always thought I was born in one part of Philadelphia, but 3 weeks ago I found out where I was actually born. So while I was building the early stages of the company, I just called it Hunting Park Studios because I was born on Hunting Park Avenue in Philadelphia. We're not going to keep that name. We're actually developing a full brand, a brand identity and a name. But I felt, as love to my mother, who birthed me in the place she birthed me at, I wanted to at least start this journey by giving credit to the place I was born in for her. So it's Hunting Park Studios. But certainly follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Marvin Bing. On Instagram, it's spelled differently, MRVN. Bing. Reach out. Let me know what you're working on. I want to dig in, join in wherever I can.
Fam, you have a you have a seat at the table whenever you want to come back to Brookago to come rock with us and rock with all the fam here in our lovely land of Brookago. We would love to have you back and talk more about all the stuff you're working on, about the state of the world, about all those things. I may bug you, although tonight may not be the night because I gotta eat some food at some point. But I gotta get you on some more thoughts at some point. That's our secondary show. We talk about all the other stuff that goes on in the world too.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah, I'll bug you about all that stuff. And if you're checking out the work that we do here, you can get those episodes on patreon.com/spawnonme for $2. You can get those things a little bit early and rock that out on your feeds. Before we get up out of here, I'm going to tell everybody at home and in podcast land, you are definitely going to want to be here again at twitch.tv/spawnonme. Next week, Thursday, we will be on the front page of Twitch. We're almost ending out Black History Month because we'll be the 27th. And I'm sure there are going to be some folks on the 28th rocking as well. But we're going to close out Black History Month for Twitch. Interestingly enough, we started it out when they first started doing the Black History Month streams and featuring people of color a couple years ago. And now we get to end it out. So it feels fitting that we're going to be able to do that work next week and rock everybody's faces off with some gameplay and some interviews and all that cool stuff. So remember to come back through and come and hang out with us there. And again, thank you for rocking with us this week and every week. I really do appreciate all the wonderful kind words that people have shared about the show in the past couple of days. It really does lift me up in good ways when I'm feeling down and being like, yo, I'm sick of seeing Bloomberg's face on my TV. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sending me a good tweet and all that good stuff. So until then, we will say peace. We'll see you next week. Much love, and we out.